Okay, just making sure. But yo, what's going on YouTube? I've been thinking about this idea recently that maybe most people their problem really isn't motivation. I just said fuck it, I'll just record a video on it. But I feel like most people don't have a problem with motivation. They just really haven't figured out what the one thing that they actually need to focus on is. Because you can work all day, you can stay busy, you can do busy work, right? You can do 20, 30, 50, you can do a million different things. And none of those things actually move the needle forward in your life. They do absolutely nothing for you. And I've been thinking about this a lot because like, even if you watch the channel, just focusing on building the business, scaling to hit those 100K months and then those $1 million months. And the more you put thought into that, the more you realize that you really can't give equal attention to everything. That's an obvious, right? That should be like an obvious conclusion. But you really just have to figure out what that actual lever is that you need to pull and just pull that thing and just fuck off everything else, really. Because I've been doing some traveling recently, and I definitely think that being away has given me some like more mental space than I had previously. Because I mean, you wake up, normal routine. You have your phone, you have your messages, you have your meetings, you're in the daily motions. Everything feels important because it's directly in front of you, but it's not until you actually step back, almost as if like you're stepping outside of your body and actually look, and you're like, bro, these things that you're doing or that you have been doing, it's not really all that important. Because it's definitely very easy, especially like when you're a founder, to like confuse activity with actual progress, like doing things all day. And like you really could be doing things all day and you're still avoiding the one thing that if you did that thing, it would change everything. And I'm not saying this as if I figured everything out. Like I have not. I don't think you ever figure everything out. Like life is a journey. You're continuously learning. Like it's a never-ending process. But when you really simplify it, like just focusing on business, like most businesses, or at least like what I realize is it really isn't as complicated as most people think looking at it from the outside. And it's definitely not as complicated as it seemed to me in the past. I mean, there are a lot of details, but at the end of the day, there are systems, there are people, there are operations, there's technology, there's finances, et cetera, et cetera. But at the highest level, most businesses do a few basic things, right? They attract qualified people and they eventually turn those people into customers. They extract cash value from those leads, you can call them, right? And then of course you actually need to deliver what you sold them at a high level. And that's really all there is to it. Like for example, with my marketing agency, it really just comes down to generating qualified leads and then having the system in place to actually collect funds from them and then just fulfill for them at the end of the day. Um, Fulfilling for them properly and doing those two things at a high level, right? You're getting attention from the right people. That's super important. You need to create enough trust for them to actually buy, and then that's what delivering the result is what makes the whole thing sustainable, right? Because if you weren't delivering the result, you'd pretty much be scamming them. You'll be pulling like a fucking Logan Paul or some shit. What I think he scammed his audience, but in e-commerce is similar too. You get the right product in front of the right people, you get them to purchase it, and then you actually fulfill the product properly, meaning like you send it to them, you get the product to them, right? Um, and I mean, all these different businesses have different details, but the fundamental mechanics of the business are usually pretty much the same, right? Unless you're maybe like SpaceX or Tesla, not Tesla, but unless you're probably like Elon Musk and you're running SpaceX, but it's probably to some degree similar to that. I don't know the specifics of SpaceX honestly, but it has to be some shit that's related to that honestly. But I suppose what I'm saying is that like the business can have like 100 different tasks, but usually only one or two are the main things that are actually limiting your growth at the current moment, right? And when I say pulling the one lever, I'm talking about the one thing that if you improved it, it would literally create the result that you're looking for, right? For example, if in your business you need qualified demand for whatever you're selling, whether that be a service or like a product or whatever it may be, then your lever is lead generation. That's what your lever is, right? If you have plenty of leads but nobody is buying, then the lever might be your offer. What are you actually offering to them? Maybe they don't want it. Maybe that market, they just don't want that shit. There's no desire and urgency for that offer. Um, or it may be in your sales and your ability to actually establish trust. Let's say that you can sell but you can't deliver, then your lever is fulfillment. You're just not doing a good job actually delivering the services that you're promising, and that's a problem. But each of these things are individual problems, and they're good problems to have, because once you solve those problems, you unlock a new level in your business, right? And let's say, for example, you're delivering well, but the business still isn't making money, then maybe the lever in that case is like the profit margins or the economics, like, yeah, the economics of the offer, right? That could be the issue as well. Um, but I mean, what most people do is they try to improve all those things at once, right? Um, they think that they need to improve their marketing, their sales, their fulfillment, like literally everything, their content, their operations, their mindset, their fitness, their finances, everything. And all those things are important at a particular stage. But at the end of the day, they've touched 10 different things, but haven't meaningfully moved the one thing that actually is holding them back at the moment, right? For example, like I would say one of the biggest, or not one of the biggest bottleneck right now for us is fulfillment. Right? It's not about generating more opportunities or trying to find another thing to add. It's not even about generating more demand, right? Um, it's just about having the capacity and the systems to actually fulfill what we're selling. Adding demand right now could only make problems worse. That shit would hurt us. You know what I mean? Because now you have more people waiting, you have more promises being made, more pressure, and that's just piling up. It's stacking up. It's stacking up. And a lot of businesses, the goal is obviously to attract qualified people, right? Getting them to pay to get money from them, and then of course, a part of fulfillment, delivering the product or service properly. But the moment fulfillment isn't dialed in, then the growth is limited no matter how many more qualified leads are coming in, right? And something I've had to think about more seriously is that sometimes the most exciting thing is another opportunity, like another product, another campaign, another idea. But the highest leverage thing may actually be fixing the thing you already have before you add more shit on top of it. And I think that's important. I definitely think that's important. I think that this is where ambition can actually become a problem, because ambition gives you a lot of things. It gives you energy primarily. You want to move fast. You want to do things quickly. You want to just execute and build and grow. You want to build multiple things. You want to pursue every opportunity because you see the potential in everything, right? But if that energy is spread across too many different directions, then it loses its power. It loses its force. Fucking fly. But it does. Like, you're technically moving, but you're not moving with enough pressure in one direction to actually make a significant difference. And I'm not saying I want to become somebody who only does one tiny thing forever. That's not the point that I'm trying to make here. But in each season, there should be one dominant priority. Like, you can't, and this actually relates to a video I watched recently, which definitely makes a lot of sense. And it was the angle of it was kind of funny. I think it was like you can only have one addiction in life. Once you have like 2-3 addictions, then your life is just fucked. But it's true. Like, you can have your attention being pulled to like 10, 20 different things, especially when you have a specific goal in mind. Like, you need to somehow manufacture your life around just wanting and pursuing that one thing until you get it. Right? There should be that one dominant priority. In that one lever that if you improve it, everything else becomes easier. Right now, I'm focused on building $1 million a month business. I can't operate like every task requires the same amount of attention. It does not. Some things are important, some things are urgent, some things are literally just distractions that happen to look productive, but in reality, they are not productive at all. Like, zero. And this actually connects to the idea of perspective. I've been thinking about what an average life actually means. To be average, to live average. And I don't think it means that everyone needs to be rich or famous or working every minute of the day. I would say that when it comes to being average, if somebody genuinely wants a simple life, that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't care what kind of life you want. That's everybody has their own faculties to decide that on their own. I think the problem is when you have a much bigger vision for yourself, and really all that means is you want to achieve more, do more, be more than you currently are. But you keep making decisions that are completely disconnected from that vision, right? You end up doing things or you living by default and you wonder why your life never becomes what you imagined it to be or what you wanted it to be. Like the problem can look completely different depending on how you view it. You know, you can look at a business bottleneck and say, okay, this proves I'm failing, or this is the problem. This is the issue in the business. Or you can say, this is the next problem I need to solve. Two different ways to look at things. You can look at a slow day and say, nothing is happening. Or you can use that day to understand what needs to change. What I'm saying is that perspective is everything. It's super important, but it doesn't magically fix everything. The problem is still the problem, right? But the perspective determines whether you respond to it intelligently or just get emotional about it and lose. Like perspective really is everything when you think about it. You can have two people that live the exact same experience and it affects them in two completely different ways. They recall it two different ways. They recount it just completely differently. One used it, turned it into something positive. One used it and turned it into something negative, and their life is now a certain way because of it, and that other person's life is a certain way because of it. And it really all comes down to perspective. Like perspective is really everything, bro. Like it really is. Like how you perceive your environment around you. Like it really is everything, bro. Like and that proves it. Like that experiment, two people going through the exact same thing and it affecting them in two completely different ways. So, if you're watching this and you feel like you have 100 things going on, I would pretty much ask yourself like a few questions. First and foremost, what is the actual goal right now? Because if you don't know that already, then like just knowing what the goal is and identifying it, you're already like 30, 40%, maybe even 50% of the way there, honestly. The belief that you can actually fix that problem or attain that goal, that gets you even closer. But that's the first thing, though. What is the actual goal, right? And then what has to be true for me to reach that goal? And a good way to think about it is like once I am at that goal, how am I operating? How am I moving? What is my business like? What am I doing? And most times, if you just do that, like for example, me right now, to scale to $1 million a month, when I'm at $1 million a month, I'm doing certain things on a daily basis. I'm operating a certain way. The best way for me to hit that goal is just to begin operating like that now, right? And you really need to identify like what is the one thing currently stopping the rest of the pipeline, the rest of the system from working. And that's a good exercise. Like write down the goal. First, determine what that goal is. Write down the goal. Write down the major parts that are actually required to achieve that goal, right? Figure out which part is the weakest or the most limiting out of everything. And then you want to, if it comes down to like a period of time, attack that problem before anything else, before looking for another project, before anything else. Because you may not really need more attention, you just need more clarity. You should stop asking yourself what else can you add and just start asking what do you need to fix in your current life. So for right now, with me personally, that just means getting fulfillment dialed more in. It means making sure that when more demand comes in, the business can actually handle it. and not just instantly looking for another opportunity, because I don't think that is the main constraint at the moment, even if it may feel exciting. The goal is not to be busy. That's not fun. I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to be busy. The goal is really just to pull the right lever long enough for the result to actually change, and then move on to the next thing. And I think this is what most people miss. Like, they don't necessarily need to work harder. They need to just figure out which effort actually matters, and then stop allowing everything else to actually interfere, pretty much. You know, because I definitely don't think it comes down to working hard. Like, I think there are plenty of people who have hit their goals, or even in business, that don't necessarily work hard. It really just comes down to identifying the right things and doing it. So, go ahead, drop your answer in the comments for sure. Do that. Definitely do that. Like, what's one lever that you feel you need to pull right now in your life? What's the one thing that if you improved it, it would make everything else easier, and you know that. But yeah, guys, this was a great video. This is a great video. I enjoyed making this video. Make sure to subscribe if you're following the journey. You should be following the journey, so make sure to definitely subscribe. And see you guys in the next video, man. See you guys in the next one. Peace.